This week on ICN, the stories you should have heard, but didn't. Will Eastern Europeans be the subprime to bring down all of Europe? Borrowers who can make loan payments, but still walk away. The dollar, unlike a fine wine, doesn't get better with age. What do you do with 20 million unemployed Chinese? China's about to find out. Those stories and more next on Informed Citizen News. Hello and welcome to ICN, Informed Citizen News, February 22nd, 2009. Once again, our lead story is the economy. The foundation of the world's economy has been shaken the past 18 months. Now we're about to see round two, where countries start to default on their national debt. The most likely defaults will occur first in Ireland, Switzerland, Austria, Italy, and possibly Spain. It's been reported that the next national default may be just weeks away. The banks in each of these countries have made risky loans that have gone bad. When enough loans go bad, the government feels inclined to bail out their banks. Switzerland, for example, provided billions in home loans to Eastern European countries like Latvia, Poland, Hungary, and Croatia. The Swiss are taking a double hit because borrowers have trouble paying back loans as real estate prices fall, but also, with currency fluctuations, the Swiss franc has increased in value compared to Eastern European countries. A Latvian home has declined in price 20%, while the loan principal has increased 20% due to the exchange rate. Put another way, it's like taking a loan to buy a $200,000 home only to see the home's value decline to $160,000, while your loan amount increases to $240,000. This is happening all over Europe. Never would have thought Switzerland would get into this much trouble. There was a big deal made out of the Obama home mortgage rescue plan this week, but it doesn't look like it will help. Bloomberg reported that a third of homeowners will walk away if the value of their home drops 20% below what they owe. The average home price nationwide is down 19% since 2006 and is likely to drop at least another 15% over the next 2 years. 20 million vacant homes across the country are continuing to drive prices down. There are simply too many homes at too high a price. The law of supply and demand will not be conned. Everyone ready for another bubble to burst? Commercial real estate is looking like a big balloon about to pop. Retailers have been hammered. Fortune 500 companies are basically in the fetal position. Now commercial real estate investors will have to get ready for the collectors. About $171 billion in loans backed by offices, shopping centers, hotels, and other commercial buildings are coming due this year. Experts are saying commercial buildings will be the next shoe to drop in a real estate-led downturn that began with toxic subprime home loans and has spread to every sector of the economy. Just in 2008 alone, commercial properties have lost 17% of their value. Experts say values will drop another 15% before stabilizing. The CEO of U.S. Bank was quoted, "Is the current economic downturn at bottom, near bottom, or just beginning? Who knows?" That is what you call uncertainty, and the market doesn't like it. John Williams of ShadowStats.com had the quote of the week. "The federal government is bankrupt. If the federal government were a corporation, the president and senior Treasury officers would be in a federal prison." John Williams is an economist who puts out his own calculations on inflation and unemployment because he doesn't think that the stats provided by the government are accurate. Apparently, the $53 trillion in total government liabilities as of July of 2008, which equates to about $450,000 per American household, is now up to some $65.5 trillion. The U.S. government liabilities are greater than the GDP of the entire world. Between 1783 and 1913, the U.S. dollar was a real store of wealth. Except during wartime periods, inflation within the U.S. was essentially zero. If you saved $1 in 1800, 100 years later, you could still purchase approximately the same amount of goods with that $1. But then in 1913, something changed. and the US dollar started down a long, steady road of dollar devaluations. In 1913, if you went to the local grocery store with $5, you could buy 15 pounds of potatoes, 10 pounds of flour, 5 pounds of sugar, 5 pounds of chuck roast, 3 pounds of round steak, 3 pounds of rice, 2 pounds each of cheese and bacon, and a pound each of butter and coffee. That money would also get you 2 loaves of bread, 4 quarts of milk, and a dozen eggs. You'd still have 2 cents left over for candy. What changed in 1913? That was the year the Federal Reserve System was adopted by the U.S. government, and the nation took its first steps towards abolishing the gold standard and adopted a banking system that allowed for unlimited paper money to be created. At most grocery stores today, with $5, you would be hard-pressed to buy a pound of steak and a chocolate bar. As long as incomes increase to match the price increase of goods, then things are okay. The problem is, since 1999, real household income has declined. Does anyone think that that will get better anytime soon? In China, the threat of civil strife is growing as exports to the West rapidly decline. Over 20 million jobs have been lost in China's southern province, which is responsible for a third of their exports. Beijing's Communist Party leadership has issued repeated warnings that legions of idle workers gathered in the country's struggling export hubs could pose a threat to stability. The last thing the world needs is an unstable China. Now for the ICN Rapid Fire segment to cover the week's remaining news. Japan, the world's second largest economy behind the US, saw their GDP shrink at an annual pace of 13%. Just to put this in perspective, the U.S. hasn't seen anything like that since 1932. Montana lawmakers fired another shot in the battle of states' rights as they supported letting some Montana gun owners and dealers skip reporting their transactions to the federal government. One Montana lawmaker said, "What we need here is for Montana to be able to handle Montana's business and affairs." In the category of politics pays well, Michelle Obama was hired by the University of Chicago Medical Center in 2002 to run programs for community relations, neighborhood outreach, volunteer recruitment, staff diversity, and minority contracting. In 2005, the hospital raised her salary from $120,000 a year to $317,000. We are sure that the raise was due to her superior performance and not that her husband just became senator. She resigned when her husband became president. She and the position were so critical that the hospital has stated that there is no intention of filling the vacant position. Obama's chief of staff, Rahm Emanuel, has been living rent-free in Washington for the past 5 years. Do you think he claimed the free rent as income on his taxes? Probably not. A tentative plan to overhaul Massachusetts' transportation system by using GPS chips to tax motorists a quarter-cent for every mile behind the wheel has angered some drivers. If it wasn't so Orwellian, this story would be comical. And finally, the Iowa National Guard is canceling the planned invasion of the town of Arcadia, Iowa. The Guard had planned a 4-day urban military operation in tiny Arcadia, Iowa, population 443, sending troops to take over the town and search door to door for a suspected weapons dealer. The Guard had been inundated with objections from citizens concerned about soldiers patrolling the streets of an American town. At ICN, we don't know why the citizens of Arcadia are so worried the Iowa National Guard is obviously training to protect Iowan citizens. Thanks for joining ICN this week. Americans need to be informed, so please spread the word. From all of us at Informed Citizen News, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.